Okay, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. This is Cheryl Grant, Director of Social Networking for the Haystack MacArthur Foundation Digital Media and Learning Competition. And we have a couple of presenters today, three. I see Andrew Coy, Erica Kermani, and Linda McDonald. And Andrew, I think you're going to start it off and talk about the Project Connect summer youth programming work that you've been doing over the summer. So go ahead and share your screen and take it away. Tell us all the great things that you've been working on this summer.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, and I am hearing that little bit of feedback. So if other people can just mute themselves,
yeah, I'm gonna mute Erica from here. There you go.
As soon as it flips over to my screen, I'll go ahead and start.
Okay. Sorry, multitasking. There
you go. Okay, hopefully you guys all are seeing my screen now.
Yes, we're seeing your screen. Thanks, Andrew.
Okay, so WebSlam was the project that we did this. It was actually in September here, and I'll talk a little bit about what WebSlam is, what some of the outcomes were from this experience, and things that we're excited about moving forward. So first off, WebSlam is a 1 week long intensive experience where we teach individuals in the program HTML, CSS, and WordPress. They then put those skills, those newly developed skills, for most of them, there were a few that had some already existent knowledge about web development. They put those to use in a civic hackathon where they build a website for a nonprofit, and in this case, we also had some student projects in a weekend experience we call the Web Slam. So we rely heavily on tech coaches and mentors that are volunteers and help along the way, because we divide the students up into groups, into teams, and they're really developing functional websites. So we had 22 youth participants that put in more than 395 hours over the course of the week. We benefited from having 14 volunteers who gave more than 132 hours. 5 websites were created, which we also do web development for a fee, and kind of averaging what some of our websites typically cost and what we saw the students develop. I estimated that to be about $11,250 or more of value that we created for these nonprofits during the weekend hackathon experience. Served more than 240 meals, got 380 bus passes. Not all of them were used, so we're excited to be able to still help kids that need transportation. And we also got 1 Maryland General Assembly official citation, which I'll talk about at towards the end. So the websites that were built by students, there were 3 nonprofits, and then there were 2 youth ideas. And I'll talk briefly, and we can actually go to some of these websites. The first one is a website for a local church organization. And there's a video that I can share a link to that you guys can watch later of some of the actual beneficiaries talking and going through the experience. But this website was created over the course of the weekend using a WordPress theme that was customized for the needs of the organization. And the youth really understood sort of the needs of their nonprofit, making it very easy for her to log in and be able to update and add content. And in fact, she has her recent, she audio records and puts on SoundCloud some of her sermons, and that is already on from this last Sunday. So it's something that she's obviously using and updating, including things that are upcoming events, which are searchable. You can also look at it as a list or as a calendar, and all of these things were things that the youth team built for her. And activated these different plugins and accessible, community-driven, open-source WordPress platform. And one other great thing about this theme and the website that they built is it's also responsive. So if you are viewing it on, we'll go back to the main page. If you're viewing it on a mobile device, as you're seeing now, it reacts to that and changes the size and changes some of the the other features as well. So it makes it easy to access regardless of device. We'll go back to another website was for a local steering committee, the Baltimore Out of School Time STEM steering committee. This website was built to help communicate different events that are going on and other after-school providers in the greater Baltimore region and what all these programs are going on. So it's another sort of example of a website. I'm really excited about these two youth ideas. We had one present an idea before the competition and say, we really want to build ourselves a website. This website is called Frozen Lava. And these youth, these two individuals, they have explored a lot of 3D printing and have started 3D printing things like iPhone cases, whether glow-in-the-dark ones or just other ones. And so they've been developing and creating these things, but they want now to kind of go into e-commerce. So they actually built over the course of the weekend this e-commerce site, and they're still kind of getting some stuff together, but you can choose different features, you can add things to a cart, pay with PayPal, and this is something that local news organizations have picked up on and are kind of, we're seeing some posts and some different things around this idea, this frozen lava. And the last one that I'll mention is Unblock Ed Tech. And Unblock Ed Tech, or Unblocked Tech, was a student response to filters in the school day that block websites that they think should be unblocked. And basically they created a request and voting so that the students and teachers would be able to suggest some different websites, and then as those get voted up and reach a certain critical mass, the school district actually has responded positively and said that they're interested in taking a look at those submissions and as that website's further developed. So those are some of the things that were created during the hackathon. As I mentioned, there were a couple pieces of recognition, whether it was the official citation from the Maryland General Assembly. One of our judges for the event was a state senator who made this award during the presentation and showcase event Saturday evening. You can also see things like Technically Baltimore, which is the local media, has written and talked about the Web Slam. They talked about both the Web Slam when we first announced it, but also highlighted once it was over about students creating this this website to do some 3D printing phone cases. So that's a little bit of the recognition and things that we saw coming as we're moving forward. But really, I think the ultimate value of something like the Web Slam is that every student team creates something of value to someone, and then learn not only how to work together as a team on a tight deadline, but also how to present that work and how to empathetically understand the needs of a client, to sit down with somebody, and ask them questions, and then formulate a response and a solution given very real constraints. So that kind of gives you a brief overview and shows off some of the things that the students did. And I'm more than happy to answer some questions, and go from there. So I'll take any questions that people have.
That was fantastic. I cannot get over how high quality the work they did in such a short period of time. Did they? Can you talk a little bit about how the students found you, or how the selection process went, and if you had more people applying than you had capacity for, and also the ages and the kind of prior experience they might have had before coming into your program?
Sure. So we are located in Fed Hill, which is a part of the downtown Baltimore region. We're in an old rec center. This rec center was shut down a year ago, actually, October of last year. And I'd been a teacher before that at the local high school called Digital Harbor High School, separate entity. But as I stepped into this role of turning this old rec center into a tech center, really wanted to make it a space where after school students could come learn things that weren't being taught in the school day, like there was no web development. And a lot of the students that I worked with as a teacher were ones that came to the tech center But since then, we've actually expanded substantially and have done a lot of recruitment around the city. So there are some free buses that are in the immediate downtown region, and we looked at any school that's within that circulator route because it's reliable, the most reliable transportation in the city, and it's also close enough that they can get there after school in a reasonable amount of time. So we went out and did some targeting, recruitment, and advertising, and what we look for in our students are skills that really revolve around passion and commitment more than we do look at grades or other types of academic indicators. So a lot of the students that aren't doing well in school, sometimes it's because they're bored, sometimes because they don't see the point. And what we're doing is really connecting learning to the real world in a very dynamic way. And so the students are talking to others about it. We're out recruiting, and also I didn't talk about the prizes that the kids won. So the grand prize that one of the teams, the first website that I showed, their team built was to actually make another website, this time getting paid to do so for a local incubator. Actually, it's the Emerging Technology Center here in Baltimore. Has contracted with us to redo their website, and so this student team is now going to be working on a real project to make a website for a client and get paid to do so.
That is wonderful. So where can the students go after this? Or it sounds like you're in the process of raising funds to provide more programming going forward, so they could potentially loop back to you.
Yep. We have a program we call Maker Foundations, which is a 12-week, 2-day-a-week, well, up to 3-day-a-week. There's a third open make day program that's after school that's currently going on. A lot of students that were in the Web Slam stayed on and are still coming now to the Tech Center. And we guaranteed a certain number of spots because we had far more applicants than we could take for the Maker Foundations, and so a number of students that came to the Web Slam got those guaranteed slots to come into the Maker Foundation program. But yeah, we're a young startup-y nonprofit that still is figuring out how to get all of the financial support that we need. We're a bunch of educators and former technologists. We have no development director. We're just running around doing really fun, cool stuff, and benefit and need the type of support that you guys were able to provide with this grant. So we're really grateful for that, because without it, what we do, we wouldn't be able to do as much.
One thing that might be useful, because we have a lot of projects in our bigger community, the connected learning community, that do things like this at the same level of scale and at the startup innovator phase. And we just did this webinar last week about crowdfunding. We had one of our colleagues that works inside the DML initiative. She has raised money. I think they doubled what they had asked for. They asked for $15,000. I think they got to over 30 through crowdfunding. So she talked about how to plan a good crowdfunding campaign. And so just once we post that, I'll be sure to send that information out to the Project Connect listserv as well, and you can check that out. But
yeah,
very
that'd be
similar,
wonderful.
Yeah, very similar kind of ethos and mission and stage of being in that creative phase. So definitely check them out. And then when we come up with grants that we find out about, not just through the MacArthur Foundation Digital Media and Learning Initiative, but elsewhere, we try and post those on Haystack as well as on our other social media. So we want to see everybody take these ideas forward. So we try and make sure that we send out that information when it comes across our desks.
Oh, absolutely, and I'd really appreciate that. And I guess one of the things that we're looking at and needing is really a development director, somebody who can help me, because as the executive director, I write grants early in the morning. I come in to the office when it's quiet, and and that's the time. But it's not nearly enough to be able to really take advantage of some of these amazing opportunities that do exist out there, but require a little bit more time than I'm able to dedicate realistically to grant writing. So yeah, but I do appreciate that, because as much as I'm able to, I write and go after as many grants as possible.
And one other thing, I think this is also useful. Other people who are in the webinar, people who are in the Project Connect community, we do have other people that tend to be in very similar cities. I know we've got a project from one of our first competitions, youthaplab.org, which is in the DC area, and I know it's not that doesn't mean that you're neighbors and you're in the same area, but sometimes just having conversations with people and what they've learned is a great network to talk to other people who've done similar things and who are part of the same kind of this connected learning approach, using interest-based learning to get kids to start thinking like entrepreneurs. Lachelle Hatley is the PI for Youth App Lab, and she also had students that were trying to commercialize some of the apps that they were creating. So follow up with me online, and we can try and find some good people you can network with that are in your area doing similar things.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Well,
any
thank
other
you.
questions? Or?
Yeah, I don't see any other questions in Chatty. If anybody has any questions on the webinar, feel free to unmute yourselves and step forward. If not, I think we're going to move. I think Linda is next.
Maybe I'll just say one last thing.
Yeah, please do.
I wanted to just highlight this last piece. This is something that's in the works. I mentioned the Maker Foundation, but one thing that we really do love, and I know MacArthur Foundation has been really supportive of, is this idea of open badges, and really portfolio-based learning. And that's one thing that I just wanted to show this little sneak peek screenshot of some of the open badges that we're building for our Maker Foundations, and all the youth in our program got a WebSlam digital badge. So that's something that they can put on their resume, on their digital resume that shows what they did, and start building that portfolio. So I'll just say one last thank you, and we're excited to be part of this larger community and to see all of the national conversation going on around this type of innovative learning in out of school time and in the informal learning space.
Oh, that is fantastic. I think I now remember looking at your website and seeing that you were doing badges. So thanks for making that connection for me. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of who's doing what, but this is fantastic. So have they've claimed their badges, and did you find that the youth understood them and what they were for and how to use them?
Yeah, no, and that's something that we're teaching with the full 12-week Maker Foundation course. Is all of these different badge systems. We're using some WordPress plugins to connect to the open badge so that they can have those in their backpack. And we're currently kind of ironing out all of those bugs. But here in the state of Maryland, we've been really connected with the Maryland Out of School Time Network, and are kind of taking these ideas and connecting them to other out of school time providers to help them understand how they can use badges, because the kids, they get it. It makes sense, and they have fun with it, and they want to earn more badges, and it just is a way to organize, these learning modules in a way that's student-centric, not teacher-centric, and it gets us out from standing in front of the kids to answering questions where they're saying, I want to earn this badge, and they're wanting to learn how to do these things instead of waiting for somebody to teach them.
That is fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that. And for our other presenters, if you are doing things with badges, please feel free to chime in no matter what stage you're at, because all of your projects are candidates for badge systems. And we did a do-it-yourself badges, again, not knowing the scale of your organizations, but we did a do-it-yourself badges webinar with Connected Learning, and I'll follow up and send that to you as well, that talks about some of for organizations that don't have a lot of bandwidth, maybe you don't have a $250,000 grant to build a badge system, but you have the resources and the talent on your team to do something like that, and even do it with student input, because you obviously are training the next generation of badge makers with the work you're doing. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there, and I'll follow up and send that information to those of you on the webinar. The do-it-yourself badges was done with Haystack and Connected Learning TV, for people who want to Google that. I'm sorry I don't have the website at my fingertips. But that's fantastic. Thank you, Andrew. That was really, really helpful. I'm not seeing anybody raise hands or come forward to unmute themselves, so I'm going to assume we're ready to move on to Linda. Linda, do you want to share your screen and take it away?
Linda, you're unmuted now.
Unmuted. All right, I'm here. That's great. Let me, okay, can you hear me?
Yes, you sound great.
Yep. Okay, so I'm 360 journalist. Andrew, before, one thing I wanted to mention, the one thing I wanted to mention is you might think about looking for some corporate sponsorships if you haven't done that. We're a youth journalism program, and well, we do a special event every year. We've been around 12 years now, but corporate sponsorships, because they come out of marketing dollars, it's another pool of money, particularly for technology-based companies or companies that are doing online work. It might be another thing, another resource to look at. So the 360 Journalism is a youth journalism program at the University of St. Thomas. We work with high school students, and really students from the age of 13 till 20. And most of the work we do is traditional journalistic work. We do a lot of print work that appears on our website, which you see here, a screenshot of the stories that students did. We had a June camp that was all based on teens and technology. And so the students completed that those stories. They let me move to the next slide here. They were published. We produce a quarterly magazine that goes out to about 200 high schools, libraries, and youth organizations. And so all of those print stories were published in this magazine that went out in September. But what the hashtag grant allowed us to do, one of the issues that came up frequently as the students were reporting these stories is the issue of online safety and reputation. And so the proposal we had was to build an online tutorial called Protect My Rep. And so 9 of the students, most of them had been in our summer camp. A couple came from elsewhere, but we had a team of 9 of our students working on this tutorial, along with 3 of our alums. So the top 2 women here, Cece Way is she's now a web developer working for ProPublica in New York. Emma Carew, who was in all 3 of these young women were in our program when they were in high school, and we've stayed in touch with them. So Emma now does a lot of web development and is really a kind of a specialist in social media. And then Maggie Clemenson is working, she's a graphic artist working for a local advertising firm. So because unlike Andrew, my background is really in traditional print journalism, and so my technology skills are pretty limited, but this was a great team to have involved, and they were really committed to working with the students. And so, we did a lot of meetups where they could talk about their work, and that was kind of the way we did a lot of our planning, was having the students here meeting online with particularly with Cece and Emma. So this is the homepage of the website. Basically, the students here, the high school students, gathered a lot of the information. They did the reporting, and what was interesting about this is that, particularly for students who are accustomed to working individually on individual print stories, where they go out and do the interviews and write or organize it, write the first draft. We met once a week after we got the grant. We started meeting every week here at the 360 office, and then they would have assignments to go out and collect materials. And so so this is an example. They interviewed 5 people who monitor what teens do with social media. This one is a college admissions officer. We did an Army recruiter. We did the county attorney on criminal activity or threats at schools in particular. We did a high school principal, and we did an employer, because the idea here was that teens, we were really building this for teens to use, and so they didn't want to be lectured. There's a lot of stuff out there that's print stuff really oriented toward adults. So we just wanted to give students really good information. And so students developed the questions they wanted to ask, did the interviews, trimmed like 1 hour interviews down to about 3-minute videos that we posted on the website, and so that all of these different chunks, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through some of these different sections, were it was reporting, but it was reporting that they did as a team, where one person, in a couple cases, they actually went out and did interviews together, and kids who had more skill with video could help their peers who hadn't worked with iMovie very much. And we used really simple technology. We just used flip cams and iMovie, so it was pretty easy for them to master it. And this material in the how to protect yourself, how to Google yourself, how to set Google alerts on your name, this content, one of our alums, Emma Carew, really built all of this content, because a lot of it is not stuff that teens would know, but she's really knowledgeable, and so that we really tapped her expert knowledge to do that. This next chunk came from one of our alums, suggested that the people who really they understand the problems that social media use can use. They're often young adults who have they've lived through adolescence, and they've had some real life consequences. So students, we asked kids to go out and find a couple of young adults in their early 20s and ask about the mistakes they've made on social media, and what they learned from it. So we just produced these little stories. Again, for the students involved in it, it was much simpler to go out and find people who could tell these stories and then write up these short anecdotes than to write this much more elaborate piece where you interview 5 people and you have to organize all that material. But collectively, particularly in the web format, it's very user-friendly, and they're really interesting stories. The other thing we wanted to do, in addition to constructing the tool, we did a launch event at the Minneapolis Central Library, which has a really active teen central. So they actually have a very active teen library area of the library, but they also have a tech center at the library. So we partnered with them and organized this event. And part of the thing, this was suggested by the librarian to make it kind of interactive, was to have some of the students who had built this app with us, we actually made them buttons, and I didn't take a picture of this, but we made them buttons because all of them changed their social media practices in some way. So we made buttons that reflected what they'd done. So one had, I unfriended 200 people because and one said I took down 550 photos. I stopped posting personal information. And so they were kind of the folks who went around and engaged other teens. I've got a picture next, I think, of these were the teens who were at the library. So they were the ones engaging other teens and inviting them to come to the event. We had a panel of experts, but the part that was probably most popular was the Facebook game, where kids could basically, we had a screen set up and a laptop, and then a couple of our students and one adult, and you could show your Facebook page and just get some feedback about, did our students and this adult staffer see anything that could potentially be embarrassing or confusing, that might get you in trouble over the long run. So inside the auditorium, we had the principal and the Army recruiter and the employer, and then outside, the Facebook game. And what was interesting, so this was one of the panelists. He's a former high school principal. And then we had these backpacks made, because part of what we wanted to do is promote the use of the website. So all the kids who came got these little string backpacks to take with them. The Facebook, this is the feedback from the teen librarian. And I think what was particularly interesting for me was, well, two things. Our students really felt ownership of this. They felt so proud of having created this, and to watch them out there engaging other teens and talking about what they'd learned and giving feedback to what they saw on other students' websites was really powerful. And then this, what the librarian here speaks about is, you know, a number of the kids who really came initially because we had cookies, but they stuck around to play the Facebook game. And as you can see, these are kids who would normally never be caught at an educational program, but because they, you know, there was a little performance here. You got to show off your Facebook page, and then you got some peer-to-peer feedback about, you know, the language they were using or the images or how that might affect them. And that was something that we're now trying to figure out if there's a way we could we could really develop that, both for our students to take out into community gatherings or school gatherings with kids, but maybe also develop some curriculum so that that teachers or youth leaders could have some interactive activities to use with the online tutorial. Because the whole idea here, I mean, our kids learned a tremendous amount, and it was really fun to have this group of alums and these current students working together. But how do we, now we've got this cool tool, how do we get people to use it? And that's kind of the next step that we're really thinking about. So I'd love any questions, and like Andrew, we were so grateful to have the opportunity, because for us, you know, the whole field of journalism is changing so much, and having it be interactive and participatory is really critical. And this was our first opportunity to really play with that a little bit, and it was great.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Anybody who wants to talk, feel free to unmute yourself. I usually, if there's a dead space or silence, I tend to have a whole bunch of questions. So I'll just jump in, and anyone else who has questions, put them in Chatty, or just feel free to get online, and I'll be able to see that you've unmuted, and Ruby can let me know if you raised your hands. But this is fantastic. I love the idea that you're thinking about creating a toolkit that other educators could use, because I know from, I mean, a lot of people who are leaning into these kinds of programs and learning about them have kids, and know what this age is like, and know what the programming that currently exists is like. And the idea that you made it into a game is such a fantastic idea. And going back to your website too, mistakes we made in having real young adults, I think you could probably find teens who would also have some good stories, but maybe it happens in a more meaningful way if they are out in the world and they're earning a living and they've graduated from college. But I love the idea that you're having your own youth interview and find those stories, and then have it be interactive in the community in that way. That is just that is a great idea. And I know that it's a big part of digital literacy now, is figuring out how to recognize the way your information is being used, and that idea of Googling yourself. So putting together a curriculum that you can allow other educators in schools to use nationally, I can imagine people having it built into their PE, the health part of their PE classes, and even having it offered in the school libraries as part of their programming. It's a great idea.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. You know, one of the things that we recognize is the kids were, and you know, I have to say it was so helpful to have this grant come on top of the reporting that these students had already done on technology issues, because we had good sources and good questions. And one of the things that was really striking to me is when we went out to this bigger, more prosperous school district to talk to their head of director of educational technology. They had so much in place to really start training kids and parents about social media use and online use from, I think it started in 3rd grade. And then when we came and talked to kids in city schools, I mean, this is another digital divide that I think there's much less awareness of, is that, you know, if you're in a school system with a lot of sophistication and a lot of resources, often if you're in a family where, you know, there's just more online savvy and more income, you get more of this education, more of this protection than a lot of the kids we work with, whose parents don't have that kind of knowledge and whose schools don't have that kind of resources. So I think I think this is not usually what's referred to when we talk about the digital divide, but I think it's a significant one. And I think those, you know, anybody who's working with kids and computers, this is a piece of what we should be doing.
Yeah, I agree. And what I really like about the message is the empowerment piece, because I think a lot of the programming does tend to be, you shouldn't be on Facebook if you're under 13. There's that kind of script, and I don't know much about what's happening at the high school level, but a lot of it seems to be more fear-based stuff that parents are worried about than it is students taking the steps to look at their own management of their identity online. So I think you've hit the exact right tone, I think, by having the students be such a big part of the reporting and going out and getting these stories. I love that aspect of it. Students talking to students.
Thanks. Well, it was a great experience, and we'll look for other opportunities to do more of this. We might have to build some more of the tech savvy in-house.
Can I ask you what your program goals were? I saw the quote from the librarian, and it said maybe you didn't meet your numbers, but were you looking for a much larger number, or was 20 about what you were expecting?
Well, you know, the library event, I had no idea, really. I mean, we got the team that actually built it, the 9 students and the 3 alums. That was a perfect size team. They built a real strong sense of teamwork and I think ownership. The library, I had hoped for maybe 50 kids, but you know, and I'd reached out to a number of like high school counselors who I thought might be interested, and we did get a little bit of publicity. We got the columnist for the Star Tribune, Sunday columnist, wrote a really nice piece about this, and one of our students was interviewed the day before on like the 4:30 newscast, so it was great. What I think has happened, even though, you know, I still have backpacks, we didn't give them all away, but what has happened is some of the people I reached out to who weren't able to get kids there on that particular day have asked if we could do something similar with just their group of young people. And so our plan is now that we'll try to develop some curriculum and then go to these sessions with these kids where we could test out some of this things like the Facebook game, which we kind of made up as it was kind of done on the fly, and see if we can't really make that a little bit more robust and then test it with some of these smaller groups before we offer it to teachers.
Well, I hope you keep in touch with us and continue to post on Haystack and let us know how things go, because it would be great to hear what comes of your program. I noticed that we're getting close to the end of the hour, so I want to make sure we give enough time to Erica. So thank you, Linda. This has been great. I'm so glad you came on and presented and shared what you're doing. We'll share. Erica, you'll be able to share your screen. You should see yourself as a presenter and be able to shift over to yours, or if you just want to walk through your website, however you like to do it.
Do you, is there still feedback?
Yeah.
Is there still feedback?
Not now. Oh,
okay.
yes, there it is. But we know when it's just you talking, it's fine. So go ahead.
Okay, let's see. So I don't have a formal presentation, but I'm just going to go through what we did this summer for our program called Digital Day Camp. And Digital Day Camp is a program that IBM runs every summer for teens. It it's been running for more than 10 years, but last year, or the last couple of years, it hadn't happened, and as there wasn't an educational department for some time, and so I came on with IBM to bring these programs back. And so I resurrected Digital Day Camp, and this summer we did a program that was a 4-week camp from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. where teens came to learn different about making hands-on work and different concepts in art and technology. And we used the great thing about IBM is that it's an art and technology center, and we have artist residencies. So we have these amazing professionals in their field who we have access to come and teach workshops and be part of our educational program, as well as we are part of the Hive New York City network. So that's another resource for both teaching artists and for youth, for connections to youth. So we brought on, or I should first say we had, the program involved 2 series. One was called Gamecraft, where students were learning to design their own digital games, as well as to create a wearable game controller or some kind of game costume or something outside of the game console. And a lot of this has to do with the technology, or the wearable technology, so these new innovations and advancements that are happening in wearable technology that Kaho Abe, one of our fellows, she works in that field, and she's an expert. And then Ramsey is an expert, he's an engineer as well as an expert in digital gaming as well, and taught the students Unity, which is a free program you can download online to create your own digital games. So not only do the students have learning these new things, but they're learning things that they're already engaged in and they're already interested in learning. And gaming is so popular among youth that we had a huge response for that series. So another thing to say is that IBM is also about openness and using a lot of open source tools and software and things like that that youth are able to access in the program and beyond. So Unity is one thing that was free and accessible to the youth, and would be great for their career advancement if they chose to keep going on this track, because Unity is used in so many development ways in so many industries. And also with wearable technology, we used something called the Flora, which is it's a hardware and software component mini controller that is used for specifically for wearable technology, and also there's a huge community around Adafruit, which is the maker of Flora. So we encourage the youth to continue engaging with that community and to keep learning. So they each took home a Flora after they were done with the program. The second series was called Beats, Rhymes, and Hacking. And that was taught by Aaron Lazansky of World Up, which was one of our partners at in the Hive network. And World Up is a technology and music organization that engages youth through music and media literacy. And then Jonah Brucker-Cohen, who was an IBM alum and is also part of, with his wife, they created Gadgetoration, which is a great program in education for teaching youth hardware and to create their own electronics and gadgets, especially out of junk and scraps, which is what Jonah teaches at, which is what he taught at Digital Day Camp, was Scrapyard Challenge. So I feel like without so many visuals, I'm just like kind of long-winded here, but the students were very engaged with both programs, and thankfully with the Project Connect funding, we were able to really bring this program to fruition. The students in gaming, so not only did they create their projects, but they also, we engaged them with different social media so that they can document their work and also make it part of their everyday life, as they're already on social media constantly. So each program had its own either Tumblr or WordPress forum. So this is for